I remembered her even before we met. Not literally, of course. There are people who pass by and leave nothing behind. But she was like a film waiting for its audience. You could miss her at first glance, but once you noticed, you'd never forget. We met in September. Autumn hadn't fully taken over yet, but the leaves were already starting to yellow. She was sitting on a park bench, holding a cup of coffee, her phone playing music so quietly you could only hear it if you were right next to her. I sat beside her not to strike up a conversation. I was just tired, and the bench seemed cozy. But then we spoke, and everything changed. Her name was Elisa. She was studying psychology, read Camus, and adored chilly evenings. She said silence was her native language. I laughed. "What about the music in your headphones?" She answered, "That's just background noise. The real me is in the pauses." She wasn't loud, didn't try to impress. And that's exactly what impressed me. There was no need in her eyes to prove anything. She had a quiet kind of confidence, not arrogant, but calm. The kind that either captivates or scares you. I fell in love with her almost immediately. No drama. I just felt it. This is someone I want to be near. And I was. We started seeing each other more often. Movies, cafes, long walks. She shared bits of herself carefully, like she was testing how much I could take. And I told her everything. Poured my soul out. She listened, smiled, sometimes brushed her hand against mine, casually, like it meant nothing. But every time she touched me, it felt like a jolt of electricity. It felt like she was inside me, and I was inside her. But then I began noticing things that didn't fit the picture. She was always a little distant. Even when she was right next to me, there was something in her eyes, like she was already on her way out. Like her heart wasn't fully here. But I didn't want to see it. I wanted to believe that it was just her style, her way of loving. We spent 3 months together, and I thought, this is the beginning of something real. I was already planning our first Christmas. I wanted to introduce her to my parents. For the first time in years, I felt like I was exactly where I belonged. Like she was home, in human form. But she never asked about my plans. Never shared hers. And when I told her for the first time, "I love you," she just hugged me and said nothing. I thought her silence was her way of saying it back. That she wasn't one to throw words around. That she just needed a little more time. So I waited. Patiently. Tenderly. Hopefully. But now, when I think back to that moment, I realize she wasn't silent because she didn't know what to say. She was silent because she couldn't say, "I love you too." Because it wouldn't have been true. And I was the only one who didn't see it. In every story, there's a moment when something breaks. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just something no longer aligns. For us, it started with messages. Or rather, the lack of them. She used to reply quickly. Even when busy, she'd send, "Hug you later," or just a smiley. Then just silence. For hours. Sometimes for a whole day. At first, I made excuses. She was tired, busy, needed space. I always respected her boundaries. But the silence that once felt like her language started to sound different. Not like peace, but like indifference. We still met. Still drank coffee, watched movies, touched hands. But something in those touches changed. They felt empty. Like a reflex, not a choice. I noticed how she looked away more often. How she smiled. Not at me, but at thoughts she didn't share. How she no longer asked, "How was your day?" Only, "You won't be upset if I stay in alone tonight, right?" And each time, I said, "Of course. Whatever's comfortable for you." Because I loved her. And I thought love meant acceptance. That real feelings shouldn't be a burden. That you shouldn't push, demand, or rush. But there's a difference between freedom and distance. And I think I confused the two. One evening we were sitting in my kitchen. She was talking about her friend, her finals, some guy her friend supposedly started dating. And suddenly, she slipped and said a name I didn't know. She went quiet, changed the subject. But I saw her fingers nervously playing with her sleeve. I didn't ask. Not that night. Not the next. I was afraid to hear something that wouldn't fit the picture of us. I clung to every small thing that could prove, she's still here. She's still with me. And then one morning, as she was getting ready to leave after the night at my place, I stood in the doorway and said, "You know I love you, right?" She stopped, smiled, softly, beautifully. But it was the kind of smile you give to someone you know, not someone you love. "I know," she said. I waited for something more. Anything. But there was nothing. She simply kissed me on the cheek and left. And something inside me started to crack. Silently. But forever. After that morning, The one where she just left, I started noticing more. Not because something suddenly changed. No, I simply stopped lying to myself. She had always been a little farther away than I wanted to admit. And maybe I was the one who let her drift to that safe distance where love didn't have to be returned. I kept being there. Took her to her favorite cafes, supported her studies, endured her, I don't know. Not today. I'm just tired. I gave myself to her, wholeheartedly. No limits. And she accepted it as something she was entitled to. You know when it hurts the most? When the person you love is sitting right next to you, and you've never felt more alone. One day I decided to talk. Not to accuse. To hope. Are you happy with me? She wasn't expecting that question. She swallowed a sip of coffee, set the cup down, looked out the window. I don't know, she said. And something inside me dropped. Didn't crash, just slowly sank, like an anchor. And I realized, this wasn't about love anymore. It was about time. And the silence between us was getting louder. I noticed how she started spending more evenings without me. How she put a passcode on her phone, though we used to share everything. I didn't demand explanations. Didn't control. Didn't get jealous. Because I thought real love meant trust. But I confused trust with self-neglect. That evening, I wrote her a message. I think we've grown distant. And I don't know how to bring you back if you're already gone. But I still love you. And I don't know what to do with that. She replied an hour later. I never asked you to love me. That was your choice. That sentence killed something inside me. Because I genuinely believed love was a gift, not a debt. But even a gift can be returned with indifference. We didn't see each other for 2 weeks after that. She didn't write. Neither did I. Because I knew, if I texted now, I'd be betraying myself. If I showed up, it wouldn't be out of love, but desperation. I walked the same streets we used to, listened to the same songs. And every time, something in me broke a little more. But not from losing her. From losing myself, trying to hold on to someone who was never really mine. Love isn't sacrifice. It isn't a silent agreement. Love is a dialogue. And we only ever had a monologue. After that phrase, I never asked you to love me. I stopped writing. I didn't call. Didn't visit her page. Didn't walk past her building. For the first time in all those months, I stopped endlessly chasing her and finally stood still, alone with myself. And you know what turned out to be the scariest part? I didn't know who I was without her, because every thought I'd had lately had been about her. Every decision filtered through. Will this scare her off? Is this too much? Will she stay after this? I had shrunk myself, quieted my voice, postponed my dreams, just so she could feel comfortable. I thought that was love, but it wasn't. It was self-erasure wrapped in romantic packaging. Another week passed, then another, and then, one day, she texted, "Hey, how are you?" It was unexpected, and it hurt, because by then, I had started to breathe without her. Still shaky, still uneven, but on my own. And now her message felt like a voice from the past, like an anchor trying to pull me back. I stared at the screen for a long time, typed a reply, but never sent it. I just deleted it, because I realized I had nothing left to say. We didn't meet again, didn't talk. She probably took the silence as resentment, but I was just letting go. Still, so much remained unsaid inside me. Words that will never be spoken. Things I wrote, but never sent. One of those letters reads like this. Hey, I hold no grudge. Truly, it's just sad that we were never really about the same thing. I saw something alive, warm, real in us. And you probably just saw a transitional phase. A temporary stop. I didn't need promises. I never asked for anything but honesty. And instead, I got silence. And in that silence, the worst thing, indifference. I loved you genuinely. With everything. Even your silences, your fears, your avoidance of closeness. And you simply let me love you. And gave nothing in return. The saddest part is, I accepted that. But now, I don't want it anymore. This letter stayed in my notes. Just like my feelings. Expressed, but never delivered. Because some things, we don't say for others. We say them, so we can finally hear ourselves. Spring came quietly. No drama. Just a day when I stepped outside without a jacket for the first time. A day when I caught myself thinking, it doesn't hurt anymore. Not suddenly. Not completely. Just quietly. Like after a long illness, when you realize the fever's gone. And you can finally taste your coffee again, smell the rain, hear the city. For the first time in months, I wasn't living in the past. I no longer searched for her eyes in a crowd. Didn't check if she posted stories. Didn't overthink her silence. I accepted it. She didn't disappear. She just wasn't mine. Because the truth is, not everyone you love is meant to stay. Some people come to teach you, to show you what you're capable of, to break you, so you get the chance to rebuild yourself. I started writing again, played music, had slow, unhurried lunches with friends. I didn't wait for messages, didn't check my phone. For the first time in a long while, I didn't need someone's presence to feel like I wasn't alone. And it was in that moment, when I stopped waiting, that I met someone new. Nothing like her, completely different, with loud laughter, with honesty in her eyes, with hands that held, not because they feared losing me, but because they wanted to stay. I didn't dive in head first. I was careful, wiser, but free, because for the first time, I didn't confuse love with hope, acceptance with sacrifice, attachment with purpose. The past stayed with me, not as a shadow, but as experience. And sometimes, when I walk through the city and catch the scent of her perfume, my heart still tightens, but it doesn't ache, because I know I truly loved her. She didn't love me, and that's enough to forgive, but not enough to stay.